episode 1 of Ready's Player One. I'm your host, Ready Edgemont. Ready's Player One podcast is a brand new podcast that is all about PC gaming. So if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, you could find me on Twitter and on YouTube at Ready Edgemont. And if you like the show and are looking to see it every week, there will be new episodes that go live every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. But enough with the housekeeping. Time for some news. Today in the news, we have 3 items. So this is news from the last week and everything that's been going on in the PC world. The first item on the news, we'll be talking about Age of Empires Definitive Edition. The second piece of news, we'll be talking about the Assassin's Creed Origins DLC. And the third piece of news is going to be about the brand new Fable game, or the rumors of the new brand new Fable game. So, first thing in the news, Age of Empires Definitive Edition gets a new release date, and this comes via Xbox Wire from Major Nelson. Quote, Age of Empires Definitive Edition is launching on February 20th worldwide for Windows 10 PCs and $19.99 USD. For this, the Definitive Edition, we made improvements like 1. Completely rebuilding assets for a modern 4K presentation. 2. Letting you play online with Xbox Live in addition to LAN play. 3. Re-recorded the original soundtrack with a new orchestral score. 4. Adding campaign narration for every mission. 5. Enhancements to campaign and the scenario editor. So I think this is a pretty cool piece of news, first off, because with all of competitive gaming around Dota and League, kind of bringing back some of the older stuff like Age of Empires is super, super cool, especially because there's been a lot of want for that. And I know people are already super eager to get into this, so the cool thing about this news is they've also announced that an open beta is beginning January 29th, and you could actually sign up for that via Age of Empires website, which is really cool considering that's going to give enough time for them to maybe get back on what players have to say, things that are going well, or if there's anything that needs to be added. Now, this is on here, and one of the things that's really cool with this is, although this is a PC gaming podcast, it's nice to see that Xbox is actually going to be making efforts to have different games supported on their Windows program and platform. So if you buy it on PC and have it on the Windows 10 store, you could also play it on your Xbox. And I know a lot of people would be interested in playing that, and they'll definitely make it a lot easier for streaming and maybe more for competitive play, and especially getting Age of Empires into the hands of people who maybe haven't played it before, people that aren't really for PC gaming but might be interested. And so I think that's a pretty cool and nifty thing that they'd be bringing there. And now the second item in the news is Assassin's Creed Origins. Their first DLC is going to be arriving this week on Tuesday, which is the 23rd. So this article comes from PC Gamer's Andy Chalk. Quote, the Assassin's Creed Origins expansion, The Hidden Ones, a showdown between the New Brotherhood assassins and the Roman occupiers of the Sinai, will be out January 23rd. Ubisoft announced today. Set 4 years after the events of the main game, The Hidden Ones will introduce 4 new legendary weapons, new outfits, mounts, and an increase in the level cap to 45. Now, I have played a little bit of Assassin's Creed Origins on the PC. I was playing it with my girlfriend, and it seems like a lot of fun, but I'm still going to be taking the approach with this as I do with some of the other games that have come out more recently that have had pre-planned ahead season passes or whatever. I'm not going to be buying this until all the DLC are out and they have their Game of the Year edition. And that's something I'm a little bit more comfortable doing as opposed to, say, something along the lines of a Destiny 2 where we know it has a finite amount of time before they eventually shut it down, because as a single-player game, which is kind of what I tend to gravitate to most, I know it's always going to be there no matter what. So it's not like an online server is going to shut down or whatnot. So I'm just going to be waiting until all the DLC is out, and then I can get it bundled on Steam or something for a sale. I don't think I'm going to be missing much. Plus, it's been, since November since this game launched, and I haven't had any spoilers anywhere. I'm not super worried about that. I'm a big fan of Assassin's Creed. I think I've bought every single Assassin's Creed since I got the first one that came prepackaged with my original Xbox 360 back in 2006, 2007. So I'm in no rush, but if you've already gotten it, this DLC is included in the deluxe edition that came, I think, at a $20 or $30 premium. So if you already have that, that's great news. Apparently it's going to be ready to download at midnight on the 23rd, or midnight between the 22nd and the 23rd. So that should be good. So if you're interested in that, yeah, it's going to be there. The third item on the report are the rumors about the new Fable game. So initially, the news broke on Eurogamer, and I'll get to that in a second, but this part of the article comes from Polygon's Charlie Hall. Quote, Microsoft is making a new game in the Fable franchise, citing multiple anonymous sources. The developer is said to be Playground Games, makers of Forza Horizon series. News of the franchise's reboot comes nearly 2 years after the closure of Lionhead Studios, which created the Fable series. The developer closed its doors in April of 2016 after a 20-year run. Their final effort, a free-to-play multiplayer game called Fable Legends, was never completed. So this is actually really interesting, considering that Microsoft shut down Lionhead 2 years ago, as Polygon's article mentioned, and that rumors around this new release actually have it more towards being a single-player game, kind of more towards what Fable used to be, or what it first was when it first launched. What was it? On the original Xbox, I think, so circa 2003, 2004. So now going to the article from Eurogamer, Eurogamer's Wesley Yinpool broke the news, and she said, so what's changed in regards to them moving from a free-to-play multiplayer game to now rumors about it being a single-player game? So, quote, we heard Microsoft's rekindled interest in Fable was in part inspired by Sony's phenomenal success with Guerrilla Games' PlayStation 4 exclusive Horizon Zero Dawn. As of June 2017, Guerrilla's story-driven single-player open-world action RPG has sold over 3.4 million copies. So this is especially interesting considering what Fable Legends was supposed to be, and it being a, as Polygon said, a free-to-play multiplayer game. Now that they've shifted to make a single-player game, maybe that bodes well for single-player games in the future. I'm not sure. I think a lot of people, especially with the onset of loot boxes and these more freemium models that are finding their way into $60 games, might have tainted the water a little bit. So it'll be good to see what Microsoft is willing to do and where they're willing to take their games. And although Eurogamer and Polygon both said that this game is kind of far out, it's interesting to see maybe in 2018, 2019, whenever it does come out, to what reception. And in addition to that, when Polygon said that, you know, this is being picked up by Playground Games, the guys that are famous for making the Forza games, it got me thinking, what other games or famous franchises do we know of? What franchises were shut down, and then their IPs were handed off to other studios to work on and to make games in? And I didn't know if there was a precedent for that. I didn't know if there were other franchises that had done this and successfully were able to reboot. So I did a little research, and other games that moved from their original creators and then got remade and rebooted to critical acclaim. The two biggest ones that come to mind are the Tomb Raider franchise and XCOM. So in Tomb Raider, Core Design was the original creator of the first Tomb Raider games that came out. And I think the last game they made was Angel of Darkness in 2007, 2008. Then they went on, or it might have been earlier, 2004. And then they went on a indefinite hiatus, and Crystal Dynamics ended up making the next Tomb Raider game, which was Tomb Raider Legend, or Legends. And that came out to relative critical acclaim. And then the other studio, or the other franchise, was XCOM. So that was originally done by Mythos Games, and then was rebooted by Firaxis Games in 2013, and that did pretty well. So there is precedent. You know, it might be good, it might not be good, but for the most part, signs are pointing to it has potential, especially with how everybody's been feeling about multiplayer games and the freemium model, and I'm hoping that that'll do well. And as I said, this being a PC gaming podcast, you might be asking, you know, Mike, why do you think this is important news with the Fable games, especially considering Fable 1 and 2 never initially launched on PC? Well, they did do a redux and a reboot of Fable, or the original one, Lost Legends, on PC in 2016, 2017. So if they're willing to launch it, you know, that might work on PC. And since that's already out on PC, there might be precedent to say that they might have a simultaneous release on PC with Xbox, considering that they're trying to do the Windows 10 platform. And in addition to that, most of the reasons why Fable never came out to PC initially was because with Peter Molyneux and Lionhead Studios, they were more concerned with making sure that it played perfectly and did well on the Xbox. So having it come out on PC might be potentially feasible, since I know Playground Games has had Forza games come out synonymously on PC as well on the Windows 10 platform, or at least I think the last iteration of Forza Horizon came out synonymously on the PC or on the Windows 10 platform. So it'd be really cool. I'd love to be able to play a Fable game day one on the PC, unlike some other games that I know take a year to be ported out, like Rockstar's games. GTA 5 didn't come out for like a year and a half on PC, which is frustrating. And then other games like NetherRealm's Injustice 2 came out 2 or 3 months after it initially, or not, Injustice 2 launched in March or May of 2017 and then didn't come out in a PC port until 6 months later, I think October, November. So if they could shorten up that time frame and it comes out at a reasonable time, that'd be great. We'll see how that goes, though. So that is all for the news. Now, the first segment I'm hoping to do with this podcast, segment 1 is going to be news, and hopefully I'll have more news for you guys. Second segment is going to be out this week. So any games that are going to be out for the upcoming week, so you guys can have a head start or heads up on what's coming out. So I'm going to do that next. So out this week, there are 8 games that I thought are notable out this week. The first game out this week is Iconoclasts, so that's going to be out January 23rd. Number 2, Lost Sphear, also out January 23rd. My Time at Portia, also out January 23rd on PC and Steam. Number 4, Total Wars Warhammer 2, Rise of the Tomb Kings, DLC, out on Steam January 23rd. Assassin's Creed Origins The Hidden Ones is going to be out on Steam January 23rd. On January 24th, LEGRAND Legacy Tale of the Fatebounds, out on Steam. Number 7, Bold Blade, out January 25th, out on Steam. And lastly, number 8, Hollow Throne, out January 26th on Steam. And for the last segment of the podcast, I'm calling it the presser, or just the press conference. This is supposed to be modeled after sports teams have their press conferences after games, and you hear the head coach come out and talk. If you want to submit any ideas or questions that you might have for me, you can go to www.606.net/presser. That's PRESSER. And you can submit your questions there. You could submit anonymously, or you could just, give me your actual name, Twitter handle. Doesn't really matter to me. Just submit them there, and any ones that I think are notable, I'll either read out at the press conference, or if they happen to coincide with news, I might read a news story and then read out that question or concern or comment. So feel free to send them those or that way. And so I'm going to keep the first podcast kind of short and sweet. In the future, I'm hoping, depending on with how many people come up, news for the week, announcements for the week, podcasts can range anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half. Most of the time, it's just going to be me talking. I don't plan on having many guests come out, but if there is a specific thing or a specific relative topic or pertinent thing that comes out in the week on news or whatnot, I might bring in somebody to talk about that, kind of bring a conversational piece to that. But if you have any suggestions for the show, anything you want to hear, anything you like, feel free to comment below on the YouTube video, which will be the audio posting of this. Or feel free to comment or send me DMs or tweet at me at ReadyEdgemont. That is the podcast for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in again. This is Ready's Player One podcast, signing off.